From one sports fan to another, welcome back to 933 Sports. This is episode, I believe, 14. We're getting to the point where I'm starting to lose count, which is good because it means this thing's kind of getting going. It's going on. We out here popping. I know we only did one episode last week. If you didn't see my Instagram story, I do apologize for that. There just wasn't a whole lot going on. And so I decided, and I was busy. I've been working a ton lately, so I decided to just go ahead and forego the episode last Friday. Just go ahead and save some of this stuff. And as I alluded to in that Instagram story, we've got topics to talk about this week. Plan for this week. If you're listening to this on Tuesday when it drops, I'm recording this Monday afternoon. Today's episode is going to be all about the NBA and the NBA Finals, recapping that. And then immediately after I record this episode that will drop on Tuesday, I am recording an episode that is a preview of the U.S. Open. And that is going to drop on Wednesday. I wanted to get that out before the tournament starts. So there's going to be back-to-back days of episodes dropping. I'm recording everything all at once. So, I'm recording both these episodes back-to-back. So I'm locking in for a second. If you're listening to this after both episodes are out, congratulations. You have content to listen to. Hope you enjoy. Locked in with the Gatorade, ready to go. Hashtag not sponsored, but, give me a couple more views, I'd be interested. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this thing started, talk some basketball. This will definitely be our last basketball episode for a while, unless there's something major going on in the off season. One thing I wanted to note before we get started on all of that, yes, the World Cup has started. That's awesome. It's great. I'm not the biggest soccer guy. I never have been. I'm not really going to talk about it too much. So, sorry, not sorry. You're going to have to go to some other media to get your soccer content. I will say the fans are awesome. Seeing them here in the States, all the Europeans and everybody coming over, how much they just love the country, how much they are bringing their passion. Like, even though I'm not a soccer guy, I can respect those fans for really showing up and showing out. And they're coming across the pond to support their guys, which I can respect, so props to them. But I'm not going to be talking about that much on this show. It's just not really something I'm super into or know enough about to be able to talk about it correctly. But that being said, we're going to get into the main topic today, which is the NBA Finals. The Knicks in 5. All the New Yorkers were saying it. For the first time in 53 years, the New York Knicks are your NBA champions. And I will not reiterate what my pre-series prediction was. You can go fish that out if you want to. All I'll say is I was wrong. I will say this, the Spurs blew a fourth quarter lead in every single game of that series. That series just as easily could have been 3-1 Spurs as it was 3-1 Knicks at one point. And, OG Anunoby doesn't get that tip in Game 4. Wemby makes a game winner in Game 2. All of a sudden, the series is completely flipped the other way. And, everything else being equal, we're staring down at Game 6 with the Spurs having a chance to win the series. So, I will say that this series was, in fact, very close, way closer than a 5-game series would suggest. But, the Spurs just couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done in the clutch. They unraveled multiple times. Knicks capitalized. Pretty much every single game, the Spurs folded. And, the team that was able to close out the game won the game. And that's how it should be. And, Wemby said it after Game 5, I feel like we dominated for most of the series. Yeah, and the Cavs won their series analytically. Nobody cares. If you do not score more baskets than the other team, then you did not win. Doesn't matter if you led for 47 and a half minutes. If you didn't lead for the final 30 seconds, that remains the final score. Nothing else matters. Games are not 3 quarters long, they're 4. So I think that's just a copium thing, and he needs to get over that. I want to start with the Spurs because I actually have more to say about them. So I want to start by saying, obviously, they blew all these leads and they really struggled in second halves. I want to start with saying Mitch Johnson might get fired. I would not be surprised if the Spurs fire Mitch Johnson. And the reason I say that is, look at the team that just beat them in the finals. The Knicks lost the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pacers last year, and they fired Tom Thibodeau. They had a coach, a proven head coach, leading a very talented roster deep into the playoffs, and he still got canned. But then they hire Mike Brown, who's another proven head coach, and look, they're the ones holding the trophy. I think the Spurs do the same thing because you have a very young, very talented roster. And when you can't close out games, that's coaching. When you're starting this hot multiple times in a row, not being able to adjust, letting the other team back into the game, and not being able to score, not being able to get a stop, blowing these leads, that's coaching, not being able to make an adjustment to what's going on and not addressing the situation. It's Mitch Johnson. Yes. Was De'Aaron Fox bad in this series? Yes. Was Stephon Castle not his normal self a lot of the time? Yes. Mitch Johnson has to find a way. He has to draw up better stuff for his guys. His play at the end of game 2 to get Wemby a shot was terrible. It was bad. You don't have guys moving around, setting off-ball screens, getting each other open. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a young coach who was under Popovich. He got promoted, wasn't supposed to be the long-term guy, is in a little over his head, I think. And I think, this team being so young and fast benefited him. It made him look way better than he actually was. But I think this team needs a true, proven head coach who knows how to maximize the potential of every single guy to get the most out of this team. Because I think that's the problem. Mitch Johnson knows that De'Aaron Fox is, 2 of 14 from the field for the night. But no, let's have Wemby kick it to him in the corner. Let's have our 7'4" guy not go into the paint and kick it to the wing to the guy who can't hit water from a boat. That's not okay. And that's a coaching thing. And so if I was the Spurs, I would start looking at other possible head coaches. I really would. I think that is the next logical step because I don't think it's a personnel thing. Now, yes, did De'Aaron Fox not play well in this series? Did Stephon Castle underperform? Yes. But they still had leads. They were still blowing people out. I will say this, De'Aaron Fox, do you swap him and Dylan Harper out in the lineup next year? Because Dylan Harper's a dog. He gets to the basket, gets to the cup. He has his way out there. He's scoring 20-plus points off the bench. The Spurs basically have Manu Ginobili retire, and then all of a sudden this kid walks in. It's giving off James Harden on the Thunder vibes. This kid should be a starter. He's a starter for 90% of the teams in this league. So Dylan Harper's a dog. That's all I got to say about that. He jumped off the page. I thought he was the second best Spur. At times, he was playing better than Wemby. I think for the series, he was the second best player on that team, and I don't think it's really a debate either. I think Wemby was obviously the best. When he played well, they were dominant, but Dylan Harper was just getting to the basket, having his way with it. With that being said, we got to talk about Wemby. I want to get this out of the way first. I love Wemby. I do. He's my favorite player to watch in the league right now. He's the things he's doing. He had 5 blocks at halftime in Game 5. It was nuts. He can just reach up, grab any board. He can tip the ball back to himself even when there's 3 other guys around him. It's insane what he's able to do just because of how physically gifted he is. By no fault of his own, it's just pure genetics. But the way he's able to use his body in that way and maximize that is impressive. I will say this. He has a lot of room to grow. And his biggest issue is he's too selfless for his own good. He's a very selfless player. And I don't think there is anything inherently wrong with it. We've seen guys that refuse to give up the basketball. I mean, Kobe took a lot of really bad shots. Even Jordan was told by Phil Jackson, hey, do you want to drop 60 points a night or do you want to win 6 championships? Like there's a give and take there. But Wemby's too much the other way. He's not attacking the basket as much. He's not using his frame to get down low as much. His best games are when he does get down low, when he does get after the basket, when he's dunking it on people's heads. But oftentimes he sees a guy open, he's willing to kick it out to the corner, let that guy shoot a 3. And while that's good basketball IQ, there's something to be said for that. He has to realize that he's the best guy on the floor. He is the best player on the floor, and sometimes you just have to take control of the game. Sometimes you have to be the guy that you have to shoot 30-plus shots for your team. Did Wemby even shoot 30 shots in a game? I don't think so. Brunson did however many times. Like, sometimes you just have to be that guy. You just have to be the one taking the shots. You have to be the one saying, give me the ball right now. I need to take this over. But the reason he doesn't do that is because he doesn't have any post moves. He doesn't have any true signature moves. And when you think about every other player, Dirk Nowitzki had a signature move. LeBron has a signature move. All these other great players have this signature move. Wemby doesn't have a move. He's just tall. And while that's gotten him very far so far, he's kind of hit his ceiling of how far he's going to get. He has to be able to manipulate himself more in the paint to maximize his shots, because so many times he'd be having these games where he's shooting like 35% from the field, and it's because he'd miss a shot, get his own rebound, just throw it right back up, miss it again. Like, he's got to be able to figure out how to contort himself in a way, manipulate the paint, manipulate the people, the things going on around him to get him the best look at the basket. He can jump over people. He can still keep doing that, but he has to figure out a way when it's not just being easily given to him. How are you going to combat that? So I still think he can become way greater. He's obviously going to win some MVPs eventually. This Spurs team is young. They're going to be very good. I will say this again about Wemby. Like, he's very selfless, and he's not that clutch. He had that great game 1 in the Western Conference Finals. It's about the most clutch I've ever seen him play. But we've talked about this about a lot of players over the years. Are they clutch? Are they clutch? Are they clutch? And clutch looks different ways. It's not always just hitting the shot. Sometimes it's the guy seeing the open guy making the pass. You look at LeBron maybe making this pass, or like in the case of LeBron, Game 7 of 2016, blocking Iguodala's shot off the backboard. Like, there are moments of clutch that are outside of just like, you look at Jordan's shot in Game 6 in 98. Like, there are levels to clutchness, and not necessarily just because you're clutch doesn't mean you're the one hitting the shot every time. But Wemby is not even doing that. And this team's falling apart in these high-pressure situations. And you can chalk it up to the fact they're young, but like I said, I think it's a coaching issue. And I think Mitch Johnson should be fearing for his job. I think he's going to be in major jeopardy very soon. But I don't think if the Spurs should do anything, maybe try trading De'Aaron Fox, and even then, you would want like known quantities in what you're getting. Like, you don't want draft picks. You're trying to go win this thing. I mean, obviously the Spurs are going to be heavy favorites going into next year. Them and OKC are probably going to be the two most favorite teams to win the West, which makes plenty of sense. And you start looking around, it's like, look at everybody who's out West. Wemby, SGA, Jokic, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, like, they can't all win the finals. We start talking about these rings counters and who's going to get there. I mean, in Wemby's case first, but Wemby and Luka's case they're first. Everybody else's case they're second. Who's going to break away and start rattling off a couple titles? Like, 8 different champions in 8 straight years. Like, the Western Conference, it's going to be tough. I think the Spurs will be back, but, I mean, they're going to be kicking themselves. It's going to be a long off season. They're going to have a lot of they're going to be laying in bed and being like, well, if just this had broke our way. It's kind of unfortunate for them, but it is what it is. And I talk about all these players, and I guess that's the time to bring up Jalen Brunson in the Knicks, because let's be honest here. I mean, Jalen Brunson was the best player in that series, and it wasn't even it really wasn't a debate. Up until Game 5, there was an argument for Anunoby. Anunoby played really well in that series, especially in Game 4. He had the tip in at the end, but he also dropped 31 points in that game. He was really good. He was the second best Knick. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns was terrible. He fouled out at Game 5 with only 2 points. He got into foul trouble in Game 4 as well. He was bad in this series. Game 1 was okay. Outside of that, he didn't play very well. But Jalen Brunson was the best Knick and the best player in this series by a mile. I mean, that was obvious to anybody that watched it. Game 5, he drops 45 points. The rest of the team combines for 49. He had almost half their points. I've always loved Jalen Brunson. I've loved him for a long time, and I especially love him now. He is the player that I wanted to be as a kid. Point guard who was able to attack the basket, still had a three-pointer, and could pass. He could find the open guy and pass. And that was just the kid I wanted to be. I mean, how crafty and skilled he is incredible. He's literally the modern, this era's version of Kyrie, but he's better. He's a better Kyrie Irving. In a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, he was just remarkable in this series. Now, this brings me to my point of who's the best player in the world right now. There's no clear-cut answer to that. I don't think Brunson had a very good series, but he hasn't had any great regular season to be like, oh, well, yeah, he's the best player in the world. No, I don't think you can just give him that title. Wemby, no, because of some breakdowns and 1 or 2 poor games. I don't think it's fair to give him that yet. Luka's not the best player, and he made a finals and lost in 5. I just don't think it's fair to automatically give it to Wemby either. SGA has the 2 MVPs, but then Jokic has more. The best player in the world is a big debate right now, and I don't think anybody really knows who it is. For the first time in my lifetime, in a very long time, in decades, it's pretty much we have no idea who the best player is. We really don't. In the 2000s, you could argue between Kobe and Duncan, maybe. In the 2010s, it was very clearly LeBron. In the 90s, it was obviously Jordan. In the 80s, you had Magic and Bird. It was between those two. It's been a very short list for decades, but everybody kind of knows, okay, this is the top 3. There's at least 5 guys right now that we can have a serious conversation around. And so I don't think it's as clear cut. But yeah, that'll be the conversation next season. Who sets themselves apart? But we said that going into this season, and look at what the Knicks did. Jalen Brunson added himself to the list. We're adding guys to the list, and we're not promoting anybody to the next tier above, which is very interesting, very fascinating, and I don't know what comes next after that. Yeah, that's about all I have to say. One other point I wanted to make with Wemby, this is specifically regarding Wemby because this is my takeaway from it. When the Spurs were down 3-1, everybody's like, and even I was kind of like, yeah, Wemby's going to have to go full 2016 LeBron. It's the only time a team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. This goes back to what I was saying about Wemby being too selfless. LeBron had to drop 40-point triple-doubles to lead that Cavs comeback. And he needed Kyrie to drop 40 points in Game 6. Like, it's not as that simple. Like, Wemby's not the type of player that's just going to drop a couple of 40-point triple-doubles and lead his team back into it. And he doesn't have the co-stars. Like, he has a lot of guys around him that are pretty good, but none of them are going to be dropping 40 points in a finals game. I not at this point. Castle, Fox, even Dylan Harper, he's very good, but none of them were going to be doing that. And so it just wasn't going to happen. But props to the Knicks, man. They earned it. And you know what? New York might burn, 25 years after 9/11, and it looks like history is going to repeat itself the way that city's gone to crap since they've won it. But yeah, it's been good. Next season will be fun to watch. Like I said, this is kind of the last NBA we'll talk for a while because unless something major happens in the off season, but wanted to at least recap the finals. And yeah, the next year 2026 champions with a very, very dominant postseason run. And so props to them, props to Jalen Brunson, and we'll see what happens next year. So signing off for now. I'm about to record the episode that goes live on Wednesday for the U.S. Open. So if that's already out, go ahead and flip to that. If not, you don't have to wait very long for it. But have a great rest of your day. See ya.